So good morning, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Today, we're doing a little bit of all three, which is really great. And we're particularly excited because this February, all month long, we've been only celebrating amazing women in science. So we're wrapping up soon. The month's almost over, but by month's end, it will be over 40 women from across the globe. Incredible stories from astronomy to zoology and anywhere in between. It's been a really great month, and so thank you guys so much for joining us and being a part of that. Right now, we've got 6 classes from across North America joining us, so I want to give them a chance to do a bit of a shout out. We've got Miss Coaksgrass, grade 10 through 12 in Loveland, Ohio. Hi, guys.
Hi.
That is an awesome map on your wall behind you. I love it. We've got Miss Leanies, grade 4 through 6s in Seaforth, Ontario. We've got Miss Ward's grade 9s in Springfield, Massachusetts. Hi, guys. Oh, there you go. There we go. Hey. We've got Miss Taylor's grade 2s in Peterborough, Ontario. We've got Miss Eagles grade 5s in San Antonio, Texas. With, as usual, Texas size enthusiasm. And then last but not least, we've got Miss Moran's grade 3s in Stewiacke, Nova Scotia. Hi, guys. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speaker. So we are joined live in Oxford, England by Holly O'Donnell, who is a zoologist whose work has taken her to some of the most exotic and amazing places around the world in pursuit of some really incredible creatures. Be it hyenas, small mammals in Peru. She's been across the Kalahari. Last summer, she went in pursuit of the world's largest snake in the anaconda. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her so she can share all about these amazing adventures. Thank you so much for joining us, Holly, and take it away.
Thanks for the intro, Jesse. I'm delighted to be back. Really excited to talk to you all today. I am calling you from England. I'm not anywhere too exotic today, but this is where I work at the moment. I have a job just now where I look at camera trap pictures of hyenas. So a little bit different to my background, which is mostly what I will talk to you about today, which is mainly my time in the South American Peruvian Amazon rainforest. I think I'll talk to you a little bit about how I became a scientist, starting from my childhood and my interests, and maybe some of you can relate to that if you're interested in wildlife and animals and the outdoors. So please ask me as many questions as you like at the end as well. I'll start without further ado into my presentation, if that's all right.
Sounds great.
Let's get the screen share going. Okay, almost there. Here we go. Okay, so I work in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest mainly, but you might be wondering how I ended up there from a small town in the Scottish Highlands. So from a very young age, I was always interested in animals. I was interested in wildlife and being outdoors. I grew up in a small town in the very north of Scotland where there's not a lot of people. And I grew up beside the beach. My family would take me on walks to the beach and to the woods. I had a granny who would take me out collecting tadpoles, which I'd grow into frogs and newts, and I had a great time. And one of my favorite places was this wildlife park. They didn't have anything too exotic, no zoo animals, but they did have some goats, which I used to like going and feeding. And we used to go on a lot of holidays, mainly to Spain and the Canary Islands, and I used to spend a lot of my time out trying to catch fish and crabs and whatnot with my net. Sadly, my mum is actually allergic to animals, so it took me until I was maybe about 10 to persuade her to finally let me have a pet rabbit. But so from the childhood, there's a bit of a jump. I should probably go back here. We'll go back here. So I was really interested in the outdoors, and when I was young, though, we didn't really have social media. We didn't have Facebook. We had wildlife documentaries, but I thought that if you're interested in animals, you can be a vet or you can work in a zoo, and that's pretty much what the options would be. But when I was young, a video came through the door from National Geographic, and it was about a lady called Jane Goodall. I don't know if any of you might have heard of Jane Goodall. She's quite famous. And she was hugely inspirational to me. I was 7 or 8 years old, and there was this video of a lady, very young. She was working in what looked like rainforest. She was working with chimpanzees, and she was doing some incredible work. And it was the first time I was aware that perhaps there was a job out there that didn't require me to be a vet or work in a zoo. So I went to university. I realized I wanted to be a zoologist. This was a new word to me, a new word to my family. They thought, oh, does that mean you want to work in a zoo? And for some zoologists, it does mean that, but I wanted to work outdoors. And so I went to university to receive some training, although the university I went to was mostly focused on marine biology. And this here was one of my first sort of experiences abroad on a scientific trip. And you can see it's all girls and all girls in this photograph. And this was actually a trip to Antarctica, an expedition to collect information on mainly whales and seals and dolphins. But of course, we also saw a lot of penguins. So this was an incredible opportunity. And a lot of the girls in this photograph are now working in various really interesting scientific roles. So after I finished university, I had to find a job, obviously. Oh dear, that photo's very small. But yeah, I always thought I would work in Africa. I was really interested in working in Africa, but I actually ended up in South America almost accidentally. So I ended up in a country called Paraguay, which is a mixture of rainforest, and it had some beaches, it had some grasslands called savanna. And I had my first ever fieldwork experience. It was a real mixture. My main project was actually working with these little guys. These are mouse opossums. They're really, really cute. They live mostly in trees, and we've put out peanut butter and vanilla cookies for them. And we've put these in little boxes, and the opossums would go into the box and the door would close. And then we'd come along and we'd take out the opossums, we measure them, we weigh them, we see if they're male or female. And we were essentially kind of looking at, what species are opossum around, what habitat do they like, do they spend most of their time in the trees or on the ground. So it was interesting for me. It was my first time doing a little scientific project. There was lots of other things, other opportunities going on there. I did some work with monkeys and some work with birds. And ultimately, I got some really good training. So I think that would be my first piece of advice is, if you're interested in animals, it's very important to go somewhere where you can try different things. And you might find you're more interested in one thing or another. You might decide that you really like the rainforest, or you really like the desert or the mountains, or, there's a lot of variety out there. So, not everybody works in the same thing all the time. You might have a range of interests. So after Paraguay, I had received my experience. I should have said that was a volunteer position, so I wasn't paid for that position. But now I was like, okay, I need to apply for a real job. What am I going to do? And I saw a job advertised that was in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest. And I didn't have the qualifications required, which were, I believe, at the time, a master's degree and a 2 years, I think, experience in the field. So I sent off an email anyway. And this leads on to another piece of advice. Aim high. If you think you might not be qualified for the position, but you're really enthusiastic about it, reach out. And you never know, there might be another position available for you. But I emailed this guy and he was like, yeah, actually, maybe you could do this job. So we had a very long Skype interview, and he said, can you fly out to Peru next week? So the next week I ended up in the Amazon rainforest, where I stayed for about a year and a half. Most of what I worked with were actually primates, because there are so many monkeys in the Amazon rainforest. Yeah, I saw them every day. But let's see. Oh, that's another mouse opossum. Yeah, so I did a range of work also in Peru. We did a little bit of small mammal trapping. We also did some bird work and some mammal work. Some of it was hands-on. Not all of it is hands-on. This is a capybara. I don't know if anybody's seen a capybara. This is actually related to a rat, and it's the biggest rat in the world. It's a rodent. It's absolutely huge. These are really common in Peru and both in Paraguay as well. So lots of different habitats, different scenery, different wildlife to get involved in. I think it's really important when you're young to just see what you like the best. This is obviously flying over into Peru. This is a big muddy river and just hundreds of miles of unbroken rainforest. It's a really incredible place to work. You arrive into a small airport in a small plane. It's quite an exciting flight into the Amazon. There's lakes. We do some work on lakes. This is a boat of students, which I actually did in my very first week out in Peru. I was asked to help guide a group of students, and it was a really good opportunity for me as well, because I worked with my boss, and he was able to train me. You know, and there were some species of monkey that I'd never seen before. I'd never worked in the Peruvian Amazon before. Some species might be quite familiar to you. This is a kingfisher. We have very similar kingfishers here in England. And it's not always all work. We spend some time playing board games, we eat dinner together, we have volunteers who come and help me with my work. And also, sometimes we have to set up a camp. So my actual specific job is to go to different areas in the Amazon rainforest and determine how many animals are there. And my job is the mammals, which is warm-blooded animals like the monkeys and the deer, the wild pig, the cats like jaguars. And there's somebody else who focuses on birds. There's somebody who focuses on snakes and frogs. So we need to go to areas, and sometimes that involves going to something like a tourist lodge. So there will be a building already. In other situations, it requires going into an area of rainforest that nobody's been before. So we have to bring some guys with us. We have to put up some tents. We have to find our way across streams like this because there are no bridges. It can be very muddy, it can be very rainy. This is us carrying up some bags from the river to our campsite. And we have to take everything with us. So I'm not sure if you can quite see that, but that's actually 2 mattresses on the front of the boat. So we have to bring everything, mattresses, we have to bring toilets. And in fact, we actually had a bit of an accident where it was raining and there were some waves on the river, and one of the toilets fell off the boat. And fell to the bottom of the river. So there is a toilet somewhere on that river at the bottom. And this is a river here that I spent a long time working on. It's called the Las Piedras in Peru, and it's absolutely beautiful. Oh. Sorry, my photos seem to have frozen. I might have to come back out of that there. Let's see.
Oh.
Not quite sure what happened there, sorry. Where are we?
Good. It works.
Okay, we're back up now. I think, here we go. Okay, try again. Sorry about that. So yeah, we also work with local communities. This is our Port Down River, where we park our boat. We can go here on Sundays to play football. This is back to the campsite again, so it is a bit of an adventure. But I think it's, you know, it's worth noting that it's not always like this. It's not always this basic. So if you do enjoy this, then great. If maybe you don't want to be camping for prolonged periods of time, not all fieldwork in the Amazon is like this. So you can sort of find what you enjoy most, and you might be surprised by what you enjoy. I didn't think I would enjoy camping. I don't particularly enjoy camping in Scotland even, but I had an absolutely great time doing this. Quite basic, but so long as you've got a roof over your head to keep you dry, then it can be really cool. And also the wildlife will come right around camp here as well. This is our main mode of transport, where most places in the Amazon are only accessible by boat. Roads are quite muddy, especially in the wet season, and not everywhere there can be roads. So, but boats here, you can travel quite quickly, quite far on a boat. This is more of our camp again as we were constructing. So this would be where we spend all of our time. So I would get up really early in the morning and go and, you know, count how many animals are there. So the way that we do that, I had 2 main ways of doing that. And one was to go on slow, quiet walks in the morning, usually with some volunteers to help me. And every time I hear an animal or I see an animal, I stop and I record what that animal is. I record how many there are. There might be a group of multiple monkeys there, and there might be 2 deer walking together. Sometimes you only hear animals. Some of the monkeys, like the howler monkeys, call in the morning. And there might be footprints of the animals like the jaguars, for example, that we don't see very often at all, but they are there. So I record what I see. And another way of recording animals that we don't see so often, that are maybe shy or they only come out at night, is to use camera traps as well. And I think I have some camera trap videos to show you at the end here. I also did some bat work, which was really, really fun. It's not my main job, but there are hundreds of bat species in the Amazon rainforest. And the way that you catch a bat is you put up a really thin net, and the bats will fly into the net, and you pick them up. You can measure them, you can take photographs of them, and then let them go again. The Amazon is hugely biodiverse, so although I actually don't work with birds, I do enjoy to bird watch still. We've got amazing macaws and parrots and things there. And surprisingly, the thing that I didn't think I'd ever be interested in were frogs and snakes. And it's turned out that I have a real love for snakes, and that will lead me on to the work that I've been doing recently. But I think I've got a few wildlife photographs now to show you. This is a red howler monkey, and they wake us up almost every morning with their call. This is us unloading the boat. You can see there we've got big blue bottles of water, we've got some toilet roll, we've got sacks of rice. This is somebody's suitcase here at the front, and I think these are tomatoes, I think, or possibly lemons that I'm carrying. Everything has to be transported up from a city by boat. This is another snake. This is one of my favorites, called a coral snake. And this is a piranha. So one of the main foods that we eat here is fish. We can fish in the river. This is some piranha, or we have another fish which is related to a piranha, often sent up. And I always like to show people this photograph because you can see the sharp teeth on the piranha. These are spider monkeys. These are really cool monkeys. They're the biggest monkey in the Amazon. They can live in huge groups. They're actually quite difficult to see because they normally go to the tops of the tallest trees. And this is a baby rainbow boa. This is another snake, a little baby snake. So although I didn't work with her with reptiles and frogs before, I did realize I was interested in them. This is our station in the evening. So all that information that I record in the morning during my walks and during my camera traps, we then have to record all that properly. That's my boss sitting there in the green jumper. And all this information is used to determine how much wildlife is in an area. So I work, say, on a reserve, so there's a lot of wildlife there, but we also go to different areas, like say maybe areas that have been used for logging, or areas that have been used for something called a Brazil nut. I don't know if you've ever had a Brazil nut, but they're quite common, I think, in the States, and we've got some in the UK, but they're harvested from trees that only grow in primary rainforest. So it's very important to measure if there's any impact being had in the forest there. And a good way of doing that is to be able to tell how much wildlife is there. This is sailing upriver. It's really nice sometimes to get out onto the river, onto a boat, and receive some sunshine. It's very enclosing in the canopy in the forest sometimes. You see wildlife everywhere, literally in the Amazon, it's just everywhere. This is another rainbow boa. Sometimes you've got to do things that you're maybe not too comfortable with. I didn't really realize I was scared of heights until I started walking across logs like this, but with some practice, you become quite comfortable doing it. A lot of the time, it's much easier to walk across a fallen tree over a stream than to wade and get your boots wet for the rest of the day. You want to try and keep your feet dry as much as possible when you work in the jungle. There's some huge trees there as well. I've never studied the trees there. I would love to. Some gorgeous trees. And we do some community work as well with the local children. These are some of the little girls in Lucerna, the community downriver from where I used to work. And these are some students that I was guiding this year. I went back out this summer to do some guiding. This is us heading upriver. And again, some of the classes that we did at the school. We had a couple of students from the States, from Virginia, with us this summer, and they were doing various education projects, teaching in English and in Spanish. And yeah, that brings me on to what I was doing this summer, which was unexpected as well. My love and interest for herpetology, for snakes and for reptiles, was great because I ended up on an expedition this summer looking for giant anaconda. I don't unfortunately have a picture of one bigger than this. We had a bit of an adventure going to this really unique habitat where it's floating grass beds, and you have to swim and wade through the swamp, and there are anaconda there which can be about 20 foot long, really big, and nobody knows very much about them. They're probably quite threatened because of these habitats are becoming more and more scarce, and also people are quite scared of anaconda, so if they see one, quite often they'll kill it. So my friends are working on a project at the moment to try and mitigate that in some way. But this is an anaconda that we found. I think she was about 6 foot long and quite skinny. But yeah, really interesting animals. Sadly, the Amazon rainforest where I work is also threatened. So although we work in really remote areas at times, it's becoming easier and easier for people to create these roads and bring out logs. And this photo wasn't staged. This was by complete accident. I'd gotten out of the car to take a picture of the very tall tree that you can see in the background, and this logging truck went past, so my friend took this photograph. And I think this day we passed 10 or 11 of these trucks in a 3-hour car journey, so it's quite upsetting to see that. But it's also very motivating and encourages me to continue doing conservation work. Sometimes this might not be for everybody either. I'd never held a tarantula before, but she was actually really gentle. She was quite happy, and she just sat in my hands. And we have some fun as well. This is the students I was guiding this summer, and we thought one evening when it was nice weather that we'd make a fire on the beach and just go and have our dinner by the fire. This is another rainbow boa. I think you can tell by now that I really like snakes. Oh. This is a really, really special frog. This is a once-in-a-lifetime frog. So sometimes you can work in the Amazon for 2 years and you can still be surprised. You might suddenly find a species that you never think you'll ever see. And this was one of them. It was just hanging out one day and we found it by accident. So yeah, I think I have some camera trap videos as well. Let me see. This is more frogs. Where's my camera trap video? Sorry, my photos seem to have gone in a really strange order, which is not supposed to happen. Let's see. So if you don't know what a camera trap is, I'll show you a quick picture of a camera trap, and then I can show you a video of what we do with them.
Awesome.
Okay, so here we go. So this is a camera trap here. And they're little cameras that they don't record all the time because they need to have batteries that last for a long time, but they record every time something moves in front of them. So if an animal walks in past, it'll start creating a video or taking a picture. And they're really, really important to see what animals are around and how many are around, because not every animal I'm going to be able to record when I'm walking along in the morning. And here, I've got a couple of videos. So this, I think, is probably my favorite video because I love jaguars. Jaguars are really quite cool. That's a big jaguar just walking along the trails at night, which is really nice. There he goes again. I've only seen one jaguar in my time in Peru. I probably won't see another one. And this is a really cool animal called a tapir. And if you see its nose, if you watch very carefully, it has quite a long nose that moves around by itself, and it can actually pick up leaves to eat with that long nose. This is the biggest, I'll play it again, the biggest land mammal in South America. They're sort of like cows. They walk around and they eat leaves, and I guess they're sort of like cows of the rainforest. We have wild pigs as well. Here we go. So this video was actually taken at a tourist lodge, which had a small farm, and I wanted to see what wildlife was walking around on the farm. But they're usually very, very inquisitive about your cameras, and they'll come up quite close and have a sniff, sometimes knock your camera over. And this one here is a very quick video, so I'll replay it a couple of times. But this is actually a dog. It's quite hard to see. But this was probably the most exciting camera trap video that I got in my time there, because this is a very, very elusive species. It's a species that people don't really see very often, and people don't really know very much about it. There are 2 wild dog species that live in the Amazon rainforest, and this is one of them. And this one amazingly ran past this camera trap and another of my camera traps. And in the other video, it's actually eating a dead armadillo. So I'd put a camera trap up beside an armadillo that I had just found that had passed away. And the dog comes in and eats the armadillo, which apparently is new information for science. So it's been submitted at the minute as a scientific paper, but I'm waiting to hear back. So all sorts of exciting things can happen in the Amazon. There's a lot that's undiscovered and unknown. So it's a great place to work if you want to do that type of thing. And this video is just a little bit about, this is a quick snapshot of me looking for giant anaconda this summer. Again, maybe not for everybody. Maybe not everybody wants to be swimming around in a swamp, but if you like a bit of adventure, then it's definitely, yeah. Okay, so I think that's the end of my photos.
Outstanding, Holly. That was great. Out of curiosity, how far are the camera traps from your camp?
Some of them we put right by the camp. So I think we had a jaguar walk past just 100 or 120 meters. So really close. Some of them are kilometers away, but the wildlife is right by camp at times, yeah.
Very cool. Before we dive into questions with the classes, I just want to note that quite a few of those species you mentioned people being afraid of, and there's species like anaconda or coral snakes that are dangerous or potentially dangerous. So it's really good to know that you are willing and able and not afraid of working with those sort of creatures.
Yeah, that is a very good point, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I work with people who, so herpetology is sort of my hobby, I guess, at the minute. It's not my expertise. So I work with people who are experts and who can make sure we're doing everything safely and properly. And you certainly shouldn't be afraid of these animals, but you should have a healthy respect that, you know, make sure you know what you're doing and you're with somebody who does know what they're doing.
I'm glad you brought up the line respect. Whenever we deal with people who deal with large predators, for instance, that's the line they consistently come to. If you respect animals in the wild, you're unlikely to get into trouble.
Exactly.
Awesome. So before we dive into questions, I just want to know we've got a few groups watching on YouTube live as well. If you guys want to type in your questions, go right ahead and I'll pass them on. But to start, let's go to Miss Coates' class in Ohio. If you guys want to kick us off,
Come on, ask your question.
go right ahead.
What? Anyone, go ask a question right now.
No hurry, don't be shy.
How do people react when you tell them about your jobs and hobbies?
How do people react when I tell them about my job?
Yeah, and hobbies, everything you're doing.
And hobbies. I think it can be a mixture. I think some people laugh and they think I'm joking. That does often happen. Or they might look at me here and they see me in office clothes and they think, I can't imagine her swimming through a swamp looking for giant snakes. So yeah, people are usually quite surprised, but then they're often also really interested usually because you don't always just meet somebody every day who does unusual work like this. So people are usually really interested and they want to hear your stories, and yeah.
And that's why we're all here today. So on that note, let's go to our second class, Miss Leanie's class. Great answer, great question. Come on up, guys.
How many snakes and anacondas have you seen?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
How many snakes and anacondas have you seen?
Oh my goodness. Anacondas, not very many. I've only seen 3 anaconda in the wild this summer. One was on my birthday. The biggest one was on my birthday, which was really cool. I think that was like my birthday present from the jungle. And it was also with a harpy eagle. I don't know if you know what a harpy eagle is, but that's quite a cool story. We've gone to, somebody else had spotted a large anaconda at a tourist lodge and they called us. And we went up there, and as we were watching this anaconda, we hear like a whoosh whoosh noise. And we turn and there's a harpy eagle sitting in a tree. I'd never seen one of those before either. That was amazing. But yeah, how many snakes? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think most nights, if you go out a little walk in the dark, you will see at least a few snakes, maybe 3 or 4 if you're looking for them. But when I focus mainly on my mammal work, I would maybe only see 1 a week or 1 every 2 weeks. So I think it depends if you're looking for them and if you're out at night or not.
Awesome. I want to note too for anaconda, so this is a creature that can be so big that they eat deer whole or eat crocodilians whole, could eat a person whole. And you should look up harpy eagles. I had a harpy eagle poster on my wall as a kid. They're one of the most beautiful birds in the entire world. So you check out harpy eagles. All right. Miss Ward's class, if you guys have a question.
Yep. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the most dangerous animal you encountered with?
The most dangerous animal that I've
worked with.
Realistically, probably snakes, actually, yes. Yeah. I don't like to think of animals as dangerous, but you're right that, you know, some of them are potentially very dangerous. There are a number of venomous snakes in the Amazon. But I think what's important is, before I went out there, I think I thought there were you know, deadly insects and deadly snakes everywhere, that you had to constantly look out for them. But what you need to remember is things like the snakes, they just want to get out of your way. They're not interested in you. They can't eat you. They don't want to waste their time and their energy on you. So unless you're bothering them most of the time, things will be fine. I've had two incidents where I did find something called a bushmaster, which is a very, very large, very dangerous snake. But they are very relaxed. So again, unless you're bothering them, they're pretty chill. One of them I actually stepped over. I was walking on my way to the bathroom at night and it was lying across the trail and I thought it was a log in the dark. And as I stepped over, I realized that it wasn't. That was the first one I saw. And it slowly slithered off when it sensed that I was there. Because most snakes, as you're walking, they'll sense your feet on the ground and they'll actually just move out the way. And I found another bushmaster another time that was underneath an old tent that had been left abandoned by a photographer. And I lifted it up and the snake was curled underneath. But in both of those situations, so long as you fetch somebody who does know what they're doing and move it, then it's fine. The risk is relative.
I want to know for the classes, so you could tell us this, Holly. So coral snakes are dangerous. What about anacondas and boas? What kind of danger, if any, would they present? So just for the classes to know different kinds of snakes.
Okay, so the coral snakes are dangerous because they're also venomous. So if they do bite you, then they have a neurotoxic toxin there. Again, their mouths are quite small though, so unless you're handling a coral snake, you're very unlikely to get bitten. They can't open their mouth very, very wide, so they need to maybe hold onto a finger or something. Anacondas, so they're constricting species, like the rainbow boas. They don't have a toxic bite, so if they bite you, it might hurt, but they can't poison you in any way. Potentially, yes, a large one could constrict you, but it's very, very, very unlikely to happen. And when we are looking for them, when we were this summer, we're in a team of people where there's enough strong people there who would be able to hold. And again, these they just want to get away. They don't want to actively come after you.
I'm glad we're stressing the point. Snakes are not to be all good. You can pick up snakes in most places. You're totally fine. Yeah. All right, Miss Eagle's class. If you guys have a question, come on up. Sorry, could you repeat that a little closer? It's really your class.
When you caught the bats.
That's better, yeah. When you caught.
Did they try to hurt you and then it away?
No, I have been bit by one snake ever, and I don't know how many I've handled. Probably about 200. And the one that bit me is a species that it's a baby. It's absolutely tiny, and they're particularly snappy. They like to snap at you. And my friend sat it on my lap and it snapped like my knee, I think, in my hand. So no, I suppose if you're, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that.
No, you're right. The very fact that one snake out of 200 has ever bitten you, I mean, they're not something that's going to go out of their way to attack you. Snakes will not, right, they're fine.
Yeah.
And yeah. All right, let's head to, so in general, guys, for questions going forward, the animals are not trying to attack you, they're not trying to bite you. Holly, you would tell us if they were.
Yeah.
Let's go to Miss Moran's class. If you guys have a question, come on up. Yeah, you're good.
Why would you keep count of the number of animals in an area?
That's a really good question. Okay, so as a conservationist, we obviously want to conserve animals as well as habitats, and it's very important if you can go to an area and say, okay, we have a lot of mammals here, a lot of herps, a lot of birds, a lot of wildlife is in an area. That gets put into reports that goes to governments and officials who are making laws about what area they're going to conserve and what area they're going to protect. So I'm trying to think of an example. So we have a national park. We have a number of national parks in Peru. So we've done surveys inside the national park and we've shown that there's a lot of wildlife there, which is what you'd expect in a big national park. But we've also we've counted the animals just outside of the national park to see if the protection sort of overspills into close by areas, or if the opposite is happening, if animals are being hunted or being disturbed by human activity. A big thing is ecotourism, because a lot of people now will actually go on holiday to the Amazon forest. So when small tourist lodges started, it was very important to see how many animals were in those areas, to see, is it a bad thing to have tourists walking around? Is that negatively impacting the number of animals? So it's important to measure for that reason as well. I know that around some indigenous communities, there's hunting that is legal. And I know other people have worked on that to see, can you do a small amount of hunting as a community to support them without damaging the overall number of animals? So lots of different reasons, really. It can be very, very useful.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. All right, guys, we're going quickly through these. So we have time for a whole other round of questions. Let's start with Miss Coke's class again. You got the second one. Come on up.
Do you know how to speak Spanish?
I know a little bit. I'm quite shy about it. I can understand enough to get around in Peru and work. There were times when I was only on site with just Spanish speaking colleagues. I'm not particularly confident with speaking it. Did not get taught Spanish in school in Scotland, but I do need to practice.
So how did you find interacting with people if they only spoke Spanish? I mean, this is something you get a lot of field work as people dealing with people in other languages. How does that play out?
Yeah, it's challenging at the beginning, definitely. I was trained mostly by a man who doesn't speak any English at all. So you become very good at acting things out, and the odd words that you do know. It's amazing how you can just actually get by, and you do pick it up very quickly when you're in a situation when you're forced. You've no other choice except to try to learn. So yeah, it's fun.
Thanks, Holly. All right, Miss Leany's class, if you guys have a second question.
How many trap cameras would you have up at a time?
Good question.
That's a good question as well. Great question. So we didn't have a whole lot. I think we probably had 10 or 15 in total. Camera traps are very, very expensive, and they also don't last very long in the rainforest because it rains so much and they just get ruined in the rain. And sometimes termites go inside them or animals break them. So we had enough camera traps in order to tell us what species were there. So every time I go to a place, I have to list every single mammal that we come across. So the camera traps, that's mainly what we were using them for. But they are a really, really important scientific tool for also telling how many animals are in an area. So if you've got maybe 100 camera traps or 200 camera traps, you can set them out over a huge area, and there's a lot of maths that can be done afterwards that will tell you how much wildlife is in one area compared to another area. And you can look at things like what time of day are species coming out at. You can look at if jaguars and pumas are avoiding each other. You can do a lot of really, really interesting stuff. And the person that I work for just now at Oxford, he does some huge camera trapping in Zimbabwe and Botswana with hundreds and hundreds of camera traps to see how much wildlife is around. So you can do some cool stuff with camera traps.
Great question. All right, Miss Ward's class. You guys don't need to type in questions too. We'll come back to you, I promise. So Miss Ward's class, come on up.
What is your favorite place to study and why?
Ooh.
My favorite place.
Favorite place to study. Where have you? Favorite place you've done work and why?
Oh,
No pressure.
that is a really hard one. I've enjoyed everywhere I've been, which is mainly Antarctica, Paraguay, and Peru. I think I enjoy them all for different reasons. Like I love the rainforest in Peru. But then when I was in Paraguay, I worked in savanna grassland, and that was also really, really interesting and very different. So I'm one of these people, I think, who likes a bit of variety. I like different places.
And is there a place you haven't been that you really love to go?
I would love to spend more time in Africa. I went to Zimbabwe just for 1 month this last year. That was just a very small taster, I think. So yeah, there's so many places I'd love to go.
Actually, I just really want to quickly follow up on that. It's really interesting you mentioned only a month. So for the students to know, like when you're in the field, how long are you there? What are these expeditions like?
Yeah, I think for me, a month is a small amount of time because I did spend almost 2 years in the jungle. But for other people, a month is more than enough. I think if you're going to be doing some serious field research, though, you're likely to be spending several months. Most likely, in most cases, yeah, because you need time to get out there and collect whatever data you're collecting, and
Excellent.
yeah.
Thanks, Holly. All right, Miss Eagles class, you guys have another question?
What's your favorite kind of species that you found in the rainforest?
Ooh.
Was it my favorite species? Any?
Yeah, favorite species you found in the rainforest. What?
Ooh. I love spider monkeys. I absolutely love spider monkeys. You don't see them every day, so when you do see them, it's a bit of a treat. And they're huge, and the way they can move so quickly through the canopy, they can swing with their legs and their tail. So yeah, really, really, really like spider monkeys. But any frogs or snakes also get me excited. And jaguars, there's something quite special about a jaguar. We don't really see them, but you know that they're there. So yeah, probably every week my favorite changes, but I have a few top animals.
Just to backtrack, when you showed the picture of the frog, you said it was a really neat, rare frog. I don't think you named the frog or why it was so neat. So
oh, sorry. Yeah, so
okay.
that's called an Amazon leaf frog. I think they're sorry?
Is there something about it that makes it so special? Is it really rare? Does it have something unique about it?
I don't think they're rare. It's that they live at the tops of trees. They live really, really, really high up trees, and they only come down once a year to breed, I believe. And they'll come down and they'll find pools of water to lay their frog spawn. So I know people who've worked down there 10 or 12 years, and they've never seen one of these. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, we'll take one last question from Ms. Morin's class. If you guys want to end us off, go right ahead. Yeah, you're good.
What is the biggest monkey you've seen?
The biggest monkey?
Yeah.
The biggest monkey is the spider monkey, the one that I just mentioned. It's a big black monkey. It's the heaviest, the largest monkey in the Amazon rainforest. And we also, our second biggest is the howler monkeys. So the big monkeys tend to hang out at the tops of the trees, and the smaller monkeys tend to be lower down. But yeah, spider monkeys are the biggest. And
are they 30 pounds, 20, like are they this big, or how big is a spider monkey?
I think they get to about 15 kilos. So I'm not sure what's that in pounds. 25, 30 pounds, I think, for the biggest.
30, 40, something like that? Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Holly, before we wrap up, is there any last message you want to share with kids about how they can get involved with wildlife, learn more about your work? Anything that jumps to mind?
Yeah, I think I should say that I got into this position through school. I went to university and I got a zoology degree. I have worked with a lot of people though who haven't gone to university. So I think, don't worry too much. If you're good at school and you want to go to school and you enjoy school, then absolutely do that. But don't despair if school is not not everybody wants to go and study biology textbooks for 4 years, and that's fine as well. But I think what's more important these days, especially, is to actually get out there and try things. So just look for any opportunity you can. Volunteering is a big thing in conservation. So my advice is, if you do get a volunteer position, you need to stand out. You don't just want to be one of the crowd. You need to sort of show that you really are interested. So try and, there might be opportunities for you to get a little job on the side. You might get a stipend. You might be able to help somebody answer emails, or just show an interest. And you never know where you're going to end up. I didn't think I'd be guiding for anacondas this summer, and it was just because I spent some time with some people and I was like, oh, I'm really interested in this. So, and also make use now. I'm didn't have access to a lot of social media and things when I was a bit younger, but you guys are really lucky because all of this information is just at your fingertips. So speak to people, send messages to people. I love talking to young people and trying to, encourage them to get out there. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. That was great. So we do at the end of every hangout, and boys and girls, I'm going to demute every class's microphone. If you guys could join me in just saying a big thank you to Holly. You are all demuted, so go right ahead. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Holly, that was great. Thanks so much. Coming back again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'd love to have you and any members of the Wild Crew, anyone you guys want. We'd love to share with more classes. So